can you do it cheaper? Today, we're looking at smart homes. So let's get straight into this. Shout out to Squarespace for sponsoring this video, and now let me set the baseline for this. I've seen something. Here in the UK we have a shop called Lidl, and they specialise in making everything cheap, from food groceries to tech items, even to DIY stuff like drills and tools. Now if you go onto the web browser and type in Lidl Smart Home, you can read up a little bit about what's going on here. If you scroll down the web page, it gives you a little bit about what's going on. It tells you that they've got bulbs here and they've also got a smart hub, and that it's all compatible with Zigbee. Now Zigbee is the most important part of all of this, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. But what's even more baffling is that you can't just buy this stuff on the website. You have to actually go to a Lidl store to pick it up. And that I did. I pretty much walked out with everything I could find that seemed to be in its own box that hadn't been either stolen or ripped open by somebody else. And for the grand total of £55.94, I managed to get 6 items. 2 smart sockets, 3 smart screw-in bulbs, and then 1 GU10. Now, as far as the actual GU10s were concerned, you can see my box was a little bit worse for wear. I think someone had tried to maybe steal this bulb out of this box, but was unsuccessful. All over the box there, you can see we've got the Zigbee logo, we've got the Google Home logo. Weirdly though, no Alexa logos here. And it's a little bit strange that, because I think there is a way to get these bulbs to work with Alexa. Again, more on that later. Something to note, all the bulbs here are both warm and cool white and colour, which is nice to see. Now remember, for my grand total of £55, I managed to pick up 1 GU10, 2 smart sockets, and 3 screw-in bulbs, all for £55. Now if we go back over to Amazon here and we type in GU10 from Hue, as you can see, it's £83 for a pack of 2, which makes this around £41.50 for 1 light, whereas at Lidl it was £9.99, a saving of around 30 quid per light. Here you go, here is the smart plug that's branded by Phillips and works with Zigbee. As you can see, £27 here, reduced from 30. That is more than half of the complete cash we spent at Lidl for what we bought. So we've definitely saved some money here. But my question is, how have we saved this money, and what is the compromise? To test, well, we need to take all of this stuff home. Okay, so I've made it back home, and I think it's really important before we carry on that I address the elephant in the room. I've always gone by the philosophy of, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. Now this smart home stuff is really, really cheap. So Alex, what's the catch? Hopefully we're gonna find that in today's video. But the reason why this stuff is so cheap is, as I mentioned before, it all uses Zigbee. So the smart plug, the GU10 and the screw-in bulb all use Zigbee. Now a bog standard smart plug looks something like this. I would argue that this is the leading brand of smart plug at the moment, the TP-Link Casa. These are about £30. The reason why they're so expensive, because these are Wi-Fi smart plugs. So they actually have a Wi-Fi radio inside of here which can interface with your actual Wi-Fi in your house. So with this, you can plug it in, connect it to your Wi-Fi, no hub required, but this, well, on its own, it's pretty useless. It needs some sort of hub or gateway to interface with the internet. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't buy this hub at Lidl. I'm not sure if they just run out or people had stolen them or whatever, because there was boxes for these hubs, but there wasn't any hubs inside of them. What? You can also add these cheap little smart plugs to the Phillips Hue hub, which is great, and that's what I'm gonna do today. Now, if we just rewind for a second to the start of the video, we noticed that the box only had the Google Home logo on it. There was nothing to do with Alexa here, which would lead you to believe that these devices are not compatible with Alexa. However, that completely isn't the case at all. If you buy one of the Alexa devices, which has the built-in Zigbee hub, you can go ahead and pair your little Zigbee smart products to the Amazon Zigbee hub and control them with your Amazon Alexa. Please note though, it it has to be the Zigbee hub. You can't just use one of the Alexas that doesn't have the Zigbee hub because it doesn't work. However, if you use Philips Hue and tie these to a bridge that's compatible with Alexa, you can then use Alexa without the Alexa Zigbee hub. Hopefully that makes sense. So to recap about the hubs, if you buy the actual Lidl hub to pair with your Lidl devices, they will only work with Google Assistant and the actual Lidl app. If you pair your Lidl devices with an external hub like the Philips Hue hub, which is compatible with Alexa and Google Home, you will get both of those functioning fine. However, if you buy the Amazon hub Alexa with the Zigbee hub built into it, you can then tie these straight to your Alexa and use the actual Alexa as the hub. So with all of that hub nonsense out the way, I'm now going to try and pair all of these little devices to my Philips Hue hub and see how easy it is and see what functions we get and see if it actually works. Okay guys, so I've left it a couple of days before I've turned the camera on to give you my final verdict of what I think of Lidl's Smart Home brand. At the end of the day, it would be super easy for me to turn on the camera and do a really clickbait video about how much Philips Hue charge for their gear and you can get this much cheaper and it's loads better. Unfortunately, that isn't really the case. But first off, we'll start with what the Lidl range does well. And I know it's going to sound stupid, but they work consistently. Because a lot of smart home devices use the internet and Wi-Fi, two very unreliable things, sometimes when you click your button on your smart switch, your lights actually don't turn on. Well, because these are, well, Zigbee compatible, they always pretty much work. So if you've got something like this Philips Hue remote here, which I can go ahead and toggle off all of the lights, they work straight away as soon as I click the button without any hesitation, which is nice to see. We'll come on to the sockets in a second, focus on the bulbs first. The second thing they do really well is their white light. If you look at the side-by-side comparison with the Lidl bulb and the Hue bulb, you can see that in the white range from cool to warm white, the lights or the bulbs are pretty much just as bright as each other, and that's the same thing with the GU10 variant. Now the next part of this video is called Feel the Cheap, because I'm going to go over what these bulbs don't do very well, and there's two things. The first being colour and the second being function. The colours on this bulb simply just don't cut it. If you do the same side by side with a standard Hue bulb and these Lidl bulbs, you can see that when you're cycling through the colours on the Hue variant bulb are much brighter. And basically, that is what you're paying for. And that always seems to be the same case with these smart home products. When it's a coloured light and it's a cheap one at that, the colour of the coloured light is what they always seem to skimp on. Because I think 9 times out of 10, when people have colour bulbs, they have them just set to white anyway. Another thing I noticed as well is all of my Hue lights, when you toggle them on and off with the remote or via the app, they come on with a nice fade. That isn't the case with these little bulbs. They are literally just on and off like that. There's no fade here. The second part of my complaints is the function, and yes, these are tied into my Philips Hue hub, so you'd think that you'd get all of the features and benefits that come along with Philips Hue. Now, I'm not going to say they're awful, because I'm happy with the fact that these bulbs work with the wireless remote, as you can see demonstrated right now. But what you can't do with these bulbs is use the sunrise and sunset features and the timer features that are in Philips Hue. For example, I thought the GU10s would be really cool as garden lights to put in my garden lights outside. That's not going to be the case anymore because they physically don't work with the timers inside of Philips Hue. That's just a limitation that Hue have put on, really quite annoying and something to bear in mind. The one device I can't really complain about though is the wireless sockets. I think these are really quite good. To be honest, there isn't really much they can get wrong. All they do is turn on and off. But there's a reason as to why I really like these, and the main one is Zigbee. The fact that I can have my internet turned off at my house, and because these smart plugs are Zigbee on my Hue, as long as I'm on my Wi-Fi, I can still toggle them, as to where I was using a TP-Link smart plug before, if my Wi-Fi went down, I wouldn't be able to use it. And also it's just that little bit better because I now have all of my lights under the Phillips Hue app instead of having a couple of my outside lights over in the TP-Link Casa app. It's just one less app that I have to have on my phone. It's just a little bit more convenient. So Alex, what's your final verdict then? Do you go ahead and buy these little lamps or the sockets? And I think the sockets are a no-brainer. I think they're really, really good. And to be honest, I also recommend the bulbs too for the price. If you're going to primarily have them on the white, warm or cool, then you'll be great. But don't go expecting awesome colour performance out of these because they just can't do it. And there you guys have it. That is my wrap-up thought of the Lidl Smart Home set. But for now, we need to thank our sponsor, Squarespace. If you guys are wanting to create yourself an amazing website, please consider doing it on Squarespace. And let me give you a few reasons why. Squarespace is the all-in-one platform to create a website, so they handle pretty much everything from creating the actual website to securing what's called the domain, which is actually the website name, you know, the www bit. So you can choose from one of the thousands of professionally designed templates, and then you can customize that template to make it yours, make it count, upload all your own text and images to that template, have a play around with it in their configurator, and make it look wicked with all of your own detail on there. Now, Squarespace may seem super simple, but they've actually got some pretty advanced features on there. So if you like making websites, they've also got HTML built right in, so you can go ahead and put HTML on your website. And one of my favorite things they have is the SEO, which basically in a nutshell lets you see how your website is appearing on search engines like Google. They've also got e-commerce built in there, which basically means you can turn your website into a shop and actually sell products on your site. If that sounds good to you guys and you would like to save yourself 10% on your first Squarespace purchase or domain, please use code TechFlow or just go to squarespace.com/TechFlow. But mine has been Alex, this has been TechFlow, and we'll see you in the next one. Peace.